Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our SoCal First Time Home Buyer Market Update. My name is Stephen Mead. I'm the broker of record here with Domicile Real Estate, where we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. I want to talk a little bit about, before we jump into our regular stats this week, a little bit about this is the market that you've been waiting for. And I want to talk about what that means. I'm of the personal belief that attempting to time real estate markets, to time cycles, is really an exercise in futility. I think that you may get lucky, but that's exactly what you're doing. And I don't like to make my strategies rely on luck. So the question arises, if you are not trying to time the market, then how do you know when the market timing is good, right? How do you know when a time is good for you? And I think that's the simple answer, right? That a lot of people say, well, it's when it's the right time for you. But there actually are a couple things that you can look for in markets that I think are important, other than trying to guess the direction that the market is going in. So the first thing that I think you want to look for is stability in a market. And that's really something that we haven't had a huge amount of over the last 2 years. I use this term crazy market or circus market. That's probably my favorite, circus market. And what I mean by that is that's essentially this irrational market that people are behaving in kind of an interesting way, and it's a little hard to gauge what they're doing and their motivations behind it. We're in a market right now that I feel like has this sense of stability and equilibrium to it, and I don't think that's something we've had in a long time. Most people assume that real estate brokers love up markets. Well, up markets are good, but the reality is stable markets are better. In a stable market, you have buyers and sellers who feel like they can make confident decisions. In a stable market, you also are not so subject to swings like a boat rocking back and forth in the ocean. The second thing you want to look for beyond stability in a market is opportunity. And I mean that in this very literal sense. When you're in a very low inventory market, an ultra low inventory market, your likelihood of finding the right house is lower. Doesn't mean you won't. And in fact, there are a lot of great houses to buy, but you might also feel tempted to buy something or anything, right? Like just to get a house. In the market that we find ourselves in now, we're still in a low inventory market, but honestly, it's a market that has quite a bit more inventory than we had the spring. The pacing is quite a bit different than we had the spring. For everybody who was complaining to me probably anytime between last fall and now, this is the market you've been waiting for, the reprieve from the craziness. Now, does that mean that the market isn't going to get any easier from now on? No, it very well could get easier, but it could also get worse and harder for you. So maybe this is a moment that if you're in a place in your life where things are good, this might be the moment to kind of take that step and say, well, I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to push it, but I'm going to look for good opportunities. And if the right one comes up, I'm going to take advantage of that. So that's my little speech on timing the market and what I think about that. It's a question I actually get a lot from people. But let's go ahead and jump into our statistics. So I want to take a look at this closed price data for you. And again, we're seeing this message of stability. So I'm going to go back maybe about 2 months here. Where were we 2 months ago? We had our entry-level single-family home, which, just to remind everyone what that is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath entry-level home in LA and Orange counties, and we take our first quartile. So basically, if our median is the halfway point, the quartile is between the bottom and the median. And we were at, if we go back here 2 months, we were at about 711,000. We're currently, this past week, on our closed prices, we were at $725,000 in that price category. I think what's interesting, though, is if you go back here and you look, really, that's right in the zone. We're not seeing huge price increases. This is a very gentle upward sort of inflationary slope. So I like when I see pricing stability in the market and not huge jumps. Now I'm going to go down here to the condo market, and we actually do have a bit of a huge jump. I think this might be somewhat of a data anomaly. We did check the numbers 5 times because I didn't believe them. But if you were to draw a line here across, again, going back about 2 months, we were at 485. Today we're at 505. Again, a very gentle type increase, not seeing a wild slope to this graph. So being in a market that has some stability in the pricing really is a benefit to buyers. Okay, now, as is the custom, I always think it is fun to take a look at what are the payments, because in reality, this is how people make buying decisions. And just as a reminder, our total monthly payment is based on a 5% down scenario, including any mortgage interest, taxes, insurance, HOA fee, etc. For our entry-level single-family home, we are just over $4,000 a month. And on our entry-level two-bedroom, two-bath condo, we are actually just about under $3,100 a month. This is the total monthly payment required. Now, one of the things that I also think is fun to do here, and we haven't done this in a while to really take a look at this, is what is the minimum household income required to qualify? Now, bear in mind, this assumes no other debts, no student loans, no cars, no credit cards. But just to get an idea of what is that baseline in order to qualify for these payments, well, for our entry-level single-family home, that is $99,000, and for our entry-level condo, that is $75,537. So what I want to do here is, we divide this video for our entry-level home buyers into two parts, and I stand behind that. Part number one is about the pricing of houses, right? That's been something that everybody's been interested in the last couple of years, but it hasn't really been our focus. The focus has been on the availability of housing. What is out there in the marketplace? I don't think we've necessarily seen a shortage of people who want to buy, but definitely a shortage in homes to buy. So let's go ahead and jump right into that and take a look at what are we seeing on that inventory front. What are we seeing on our market competitiveness front? This is what we call our 14-day absorption rate. And just as a reminder for people, I don't think we've said how we calculate this. We look past over the last 14 days, which smooths things out a little bit. And we look and we say how many listings came on the market and how many listings went into escrow, right? So we kind of have a ratio of how much are we eating away these listings as they're coming out of the market. For our entry-level single-family home, we are here at 84% this week. And if you look here, you really see kind of just this gentle, gradual reduction in competitiveness. And in fact, if you look here, I'm shocked at how steady these numbers have been for the last 4 weeks: 87, 87, 86, 84. That is a very steady line. Our condo is right here at 81%. So as a quick reminder, this is just sort of a rough designation. Anything between 70 and 80% is a seller's market. 80 to 90% is a strong seller's market, and anything over 90 starts to be what we call that crazy / circus / irrational type market, where people just really want to get houses and they're desperate. So kind of seeing these numbers, yes, this is still a very strong real estate market, but it's a steady market, and it's not at nearly that craziness level that we have seen in the past. And also, just as a reminder, I haven't said this in a little while, but this is based on all of LA and Orange County. So this is an aggregate. You may experience some different effects in your particular geographic area and market segment. Moving on to our total inventory. Again, really good news on this front if you are a first-time home buyer in our entry-level single-family category. We saw inventory take a climb, then it really just jumped, kind of settling in on a new normal. And I think the trend line here too is actually a little bit of increasing inventory. So not any kind of market crash, not any kind of wild movements, but again, steady and stable. If we go down here to our entry-level condo market, this is a market that I think really got decimated by COVID. People said they did not want attached housing. I think that stigma has all but disappeared. And so we're seeing a much slower rise in that inventory because, frankly, I think this market was pretty beat up. And, now what we're seeing is, a lot of the buyers, the condo segment, are coming back into the fold. This is our 14-day still active. And, again, this is another one of our measures of competition. And in this case, lower is actually more competitive. So We do see that we've seen some drops here, but I want to point out the shape of this graph. We saw the spring get hyper competitive, and then we saw this gradual rising. I think the trend line is pretty clear. You do see condos have done pretty well in the last 4 weeks, but I think it's pretty clear again, we're heading kind of to this stable zone on things. We're seeing a market equilibrium. It's not really looking for its equilibrium. It's kind of in that steady state. And really, that is probably my favorite place to be a buyer and to represent buyers, because I think the decisions are a lot easier to make. Finally, we're going to talk about our overall supply of homes. Inventory is sort of a raw number, but this is the number that really tells you relative to how fast people are snapping homes up. How many weeks do we have? And again, I've said this a few times. This really tells the story on our entry-level condos. Back in the fall, back of September 2020, we had 7.5 weeks. Towards the end of the year, we actually jumped 8-9 weeks of inventory. Look where we've been. That number has not really rebounded to those fall-like levels. Here we have basically 5 1/3 weeks or so. And then coming down here to our entry-level single-family home, I think this really kind of shows that we are right about back where we were last fall. We are not in this ridiculous low 2.5 week inventory zone that we were in the spring. I think we're firmly over 3. We're going to be over 3 for the foreseeable future. Again, these are fairly steady lines. Look at how steady these numbers are. So just to recap again, when the market is real bad and it's real tough, one of the things we hear again and again from buyers is, gosh, what I wouldn't give for a market that was just a little bit easier. Well, that's exactly what we're in. We're in that market that's a little bit easier, but not only is it a little bit easier, I actually think fundamentally it's a little bit of a better market to be in. And while this market could improve even more, we could get more inventory, I think we could also slip backwards and go less. So, one of the things I like to talk to people about is, trying to guess what's going to happen tomorrow is really difficult. Instead, I like to focus on the data that I have today. How stable is my job? What are the interest rates? What can I afford? What is the market doing this second? How many homes are available? These are things that I have data this second to make decisions based on. Anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching. Just a couple things I want to go over. We are going to be launching some new webinars in the next coming weeks. Obviously, we will let you know as soon as we do that, and we will pitch and promote those. We like to do short webinars, 30 minutes or less, plus some questions on topics that you like, things like how to buy and renovate your first home when you don't have rich parents. That one is a favorite of mine. We're looking to come out with those. Also, we have a video series on our YouTube channel, window shopping, just kind of cool architectural homes, which is totally a passion of mine. If you watch this, you know that. And then finally, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and send us questions and comments. We love them. Finally, if you or someone you know is a first-time buyer and they would like to make great real estate decisions in Orange and LA County, definitely send them our way or hit us up. We would love to hear from you and them. Anyhow, we will see you again next week for our whole market update on Tuesday.